Hey everybody, welcome to Neil Talks. My name's Neil and it's time to talk QI. This is another viewer recommendation, just like every QI episode that I react to. I don't mind being spoiled on the guests this time because I'm already looking forward to Joe Brand and Jimmy Carr. I'm not sure who the third guest is, but it's a solid start already. We are going back to Series K, Episode 7. This one's called Knowledge. I'm imagining it's just going to be a really good time. So let's get right into it, shall we? K7, Knowledge.
Welcome to QI, where tonight we're doing the knowledge. Please welcome the well-educated Jimmy Carr.
Oh, Jimmy.
The well-informed Joe Brand. The well-read Graham Linehan.
Oh, interesting.
And it's Alan Davies.
Father Ted, IT Crowd, Black Books, Graham Linehan. No. I only know Graham through the small cameos in his shows, so I'm actually really interested in getting to know him better here.
Once and for all, how many moons does the Earth have?
Oh, how many times have they asked it at this point?
3.
Oh!
1.
Yep. Have they just covered every answer?
Early doors, 2. Oh!
This could go on. It could.
The point is, very, very on in the A series, we said there were 2.
Are you taking that back?
Yes.
What do you mean?
I
rely on this show. This is all I know.
This is facts are not permanent. We thought there were 2, and then we said, oh no, it's either 1 or 5. We said in the B series, and this has changed. Now, NASA describes them as mini moons, but we have about 18,000 moons.
I thought it was the same moon.
So every night you're saying it's a different moon.
There is obviously the one that's recognised.
Look at Joe's
I'm
face.
not saying
Every
that.
28 days.
Until I came onto this show, I was pretty sure it was the same moon.
I think I'm with you. Yeah, I think it's just one moon.
That moon is
That's our team's decision.
this bottle is the same bottle is. It's the same bottle as it is.
How do you explain this?
That's another one, exactly.
Well, it looks pretty
They're
similar.
not the same.
I'm not getting mine out, but can I just say, if there's so many, why haven't we noticed them before?
Well, the reason is that they're
tiny.
Tiny. They're also known as temporally captured objects. They're captured into a...
Oh, they're not even permanent.
Amount of time. To be a moon, you have to be a celestial body rather than what you
Well,
you
that
could
makes
count
me a moon then.
Yes, exactly.
You have to be in orbit for at least 5 years before you can claim benefits.
But facts don't remain stable. Things we know or think we know will be untrue.
Science evolves.
Will be untrue in a
Can we see an eyebrow off between him and The Rock?
I did a course at university called...
Shut up.
I bloody did, and it was called The Sociology of Science, and yes, I got a grant for it. But what I learnt during that course is there's no such thing as a fact.
Yes, this is precisely our point. Half of what the medical students are going to learn will be considered untrue in about 10 or 20 years. And this is known by academics as the half-life of fact. Unfortunately, you don't know exactly which half. And on QI, an estimated 7% of the things I tell you this evening will be shown to be untrue in a year's time.
Okay, so now it's your job to point out which 7% of this episode is wrong.
Even what I'm saying now is untrue. I'm not even saying it.
Maybe it's not 7%. Maybe that fact has changed.
Rate of the number of
60%
untruths.
of things in the first
Yes,
series
are now untrue.
bollocks.
If that's true, yes.
Why am I even reacting to Series A?
That means over the years, cumulatively, you must be owed a lot of points. Therefore, we have actually calculated how many points we owe you.
What?
Suddenly, this has gone brilliantly. Suddenly, this is...
Jimmy, we owe you 43.58 points. Joe, 84.73.
Can I use them in Sainsbury's?
The audience are owed 23.24. Well done.
Way to go, audience.
Alan, you are owed 737.66.
You should just, like, mic drop right now and walk out. Quit while you're ahead.
Are those transferable? If I went on to have I got news for you? Could I use?
Yes.
I could just
Use
Also usable on Countdown.
Mastermind, can I have it on my... Someone's going to have to answer a lot of questions to beat that.
You're playing it a first time and you get a huge disadvantage.
Yeah, well, you needn't have pointed it out.
So in the I series, we said nobody knows how to tell the age of a lobster.
Well,
Well, that was only a few years ago.
ask it. Yeah. Is that now right?
No, it isn't now, right?
Now learn how to
one day.
communicate with them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold. 11.
Since then, Canadian scientists have discovered the way you do that if
Way
you
to go,
dissect their
Canadian.
eye stalks and count the rings, you know how old they are.
Do you know how old they were? I still think you should ask them first.
In the A series, we said that the best endowed millipede had 710 legs. Soon afterwards, a millipede with 750 turned up, but that's still the greatest number we know. But
Is there someone checking them?
Before they count the legs, they kill it. So the legs are very still. Cut them off. 1, 2, 3.
That's an interesting fact. That's how they. It's how they make worms. That's right.
brilliant.
Hey, a worm would come along. Are you not doing anything with these legs? Can I have 4?
Now, how much do you know about Scotland's Mr. Smelly? We know very little about him, actually, because he came from a banned Protestant sect. He got paid £200 for heading up the team on something that has a thistle as its emblem, but has in its name something that means British.
Encyclopedia Britannica.
That's the right answer.
Oh.
Encyclopedia Britannica.
Easier to do that in the days before the internet, though.
Yes.
If you try to research now, you get sidetracked. B for bras. Oh,
3 weeks
it's a day
later.
lost.
Another of its early editors was called Andrew Bell, who was 4.5 feet tall and had a very big nose, as you will see.
Oh.
Looks slightly like me, rather disturbingly.
I'll be honest with you, I think that's a regular size nose on a tiny man.
Bet he could tell when Mr. Smelly was coming there.
I'll tell you what I know about that guy.
Yeah.
Very little.
Hey! That is quite good. The first edition of Encyclopedia Britannica took 3 years to write, 3 volumes.
3 volumes, the world's knowledge.
Yes, but the first volume is A to B. He obviously thought, oh, sod this. Do C to Z in one volume. So,
The deadline was looming.
yeah, exactly.
With the decay of facts, I presume it's all bollocks.
K for Kensington. See if you can come up with a good definition of Kensington.
Kensington.
Borough in London.
A pleasant village 2 miles west of London. And California here is spelt with 2 L's, and it's called the large country in the West Indies. Possibly an island or a peninsula, it's not known.
Yeah, it could be a place or a thing. No one knows. Might be a person. Good luck.
If you look
What does encyclopedia mean? Because it sounds like a kiddie fiddler on a bike.
very tricky, I grant you. Could get an idiot into trouble.
Ouch.
The entry for woman in the original version just says the female of man, see homo.
He will tell you everything you need to know.
Because he's their best friend. In the 1960s, an American called Dr. Harvey Einbinder, who so hated the Encyclopedia Britannica, he wrote a book where he listed all the things that were wrong in it. It was 390 pages long.
Does he only have one
We
binder?
meet at last, Mr. Einbinder.
It's a massive binder. Don't touch my binder!
What did the inventor of the thermometer spend 30 years measuring?
I'm going to say temperature, OK?
He's got a cushion.
I know a joke about thermometers, about nurses and thermometers. Just a nurse finds a rectal thermometer in a pocket and goes, oh, some arsehole's got my pen.
I do enjoy Jimmy Carr.
Was that a nurse comes running in and says to the matron, oh dear, I think I've got something the wrong way round. You asked me to prick someone's boil.
The difference between an oral and rectal thermometer.
I hope you do know the difference.
Yeah. Taste. Right. Right.
He's weighing himself. That's a special
weighing
balance he had
himself?
created. Every single day he'd weigh himself and the food he ate, and indeed the feces and urine that he expelled.
Did he think it was a zero-sum game?
He thought, why is it I put in, say, 100 pounds of food,
We sweat and we expel
but I poo out only...
water vapor and carbon dioxide.
30 years? I mean, really, after 3 years with the
Oh,
same...
no, he had a theory, but his theory was wrong, that's all. He knew that faeces was poisonous, at least toxic and bad for you. With smell is a big warning, obviously.
Sorry, your faeces smell.
Jimmy Carr's shit don't stink.
He co-invented with his fellow at Padua, a much better-known scientist. Who would that be in the same period?
What was the time frame?
Galileo.
Whatever it is. Galileo is the right answer.
Oh, I nearly said that!
So Brand's a smart cookie. She gives it away on this series.
He
You could do the fandango!
Yes.
Thunderbolts and lightning.
That's right.
Thunderbolt and lightning!
Please.
Very, very frightening!
Feces is made up, is 70% liquid. It just takes a bit of separating out. Not that I would urge you to do it when you get home.
When they get home, why wait?
Of that dry weight, 30% is what? It's
Corn
composed
on the
of.
cob.
But it turns out the best way to relieve yourself in a weightless environment is through a hole in the wall. It's easier to do that than to go down or up.
I do that with the shower.
Many people
Who
would.
doesn't poo in the shower?
So the space station is built with a little glory hole thing. Like,
I wouldn't call it that. You're too much slightly in the know.
on the second junction. What? What's your problem? Everyone knows that. Never on a Tuesday.
You know, by a process of elimination, it's only going to be one of two other people. But the other thing that happens when you go to space is you don't snore, I believe. Do you know this?
I didn't. That's
Yeah.
a beautiful little
You
fact.
can't-
That's an extreme cure, though,
I'm
isn't
as good
it?
at
I'm going to try the little things first.
Yeah,
There are wives watching this going, yep, it's going to have to be space. Even then, I think he might wake me.
What can you find out by hiding under a student's bed?
A massive pile of porn mags.
That's probably true.
I think now you've got the internet.
I'm
now.
afraid,
It's-
yeah, you wouldn't really.
Broadband are doing a terrific job.
I think that's a bit sad, though, in a way.
It's not, yeah, they
For
would.
mags.
Not for men.
No, not personally.
The only way to find out what people are saying without knowing they're being overheard was to hide somewhere and take notes while they were talking. And they wanted to know what
You
sort
didn't
of
have
things students
tape
spoke about.
recorders in the 30s?
I don't want to, throw stones at these lovely scientists, but it sounds to me like a cover story.
You wait. You wait till I get to some other unethical scientist. You hold that back, because it gets worse.
Wait, scientists are unethical sometimes?
And they discovered that 40% of their conversation was devoted to...
The opposite sex.
No, it wasn't. It was themselves. It was a study in egocentricity.
I would never do that.
Yeah,
Jimmy Carr would never let that happen.
Oh, don't. That's the worst thing. So there are other dodgy experiments. There was a personal space invasion in the men's restroom, a study of 1976. Someone hid a camera under the partition, under the sort of floor
Someone,
space.
Stephen. Someone. You seem to know a lot about this, Stephen. I've got a couple of questions.
If there was one person, let's say the third one in a row of 6, where would the average person go?
I don't have it anymore. I don't know why it's gone, but I used to be quite a shy peer. You were
My technique for shy peeing is I think of the most embarrassing thing I can do. Then it's all go.
And in 1942, and this is the one where you're going to go, yeah, right, a psychologist called Lawrence Lashan tried to use sleep learning at a summer camp to cure some boys of nail biting. He recorded the phrase, "My fingernails are terribly bitter," on a phonograph, and then played it 300 times a night in the boys' room or whatever it was.
And they all went on to kill and kill again?
One. After 5 weeks, the phonograph broke. So to keep the experiment running, he stood in the boys' dormitory through the night and repeated the phrase himself. And he claimed it as a success. It's thought generally these days that the boys were awake and just freaked out by the experience. They stopped biting their nails to make the nasty man go away. Moving on. How did the Romans tell their Keiths from their Kevins? Some Keiths and Kevins there, in case you don't know what
Keith
they are.
Richards.
Kevin Bacon.
I think on the far left, that's Burger King, isn't it?
It doesn't have to be Keiths from Kevins. It means how did Romans know people's names? You have a special servant.
A servant to say your name.
A nomenclator. No, not to say your name.
If I've forgotten someone's name, I just say, excuse me for a second, and then I go home.
I'm one of those terrible people that just calls him buddy for the next 10 minutes.
Fiona.
Devies,
Don't-
Fiona.
After a while, you go, oh, no, I know that one.
Yes, you were allowed
Tell
to
me the
tell
ones I
them.
don't know. She now thinks I've forgotten her name. I was really thought I was in there. No, you've just gone, it's Fiona. As if I didn't know it was Fiona. Look at her face now.
Moving on to self-knowledge. How do you know when you've had enough?
Someone always tells me.
I don't.
It's the cold steel round both wrists. And the clanging of the door. And the one phone call. I've had enough.
Are we talking food here?
We are talking food, yeah.
I don't really.
Don't you have to wait like 20 minutes before the signals from your stomach inform your brain that you're full?
You can test this on people with short-term memory loss. And
Sorry, what were you saying?
exactly. They will eat 3 or 4 heavy meals when they're obviously completely stuffed because they don't remember eating. A question about kiss and kin now. What's the best way of avoiding talking to your mother-in-law? Yes, Joe.
Removing her vocal cords.
Well, lean in for the kiss.
Oddly enough, you're in the right hideous area.
Really? I view the mother-in-law as its Christmas future.
Yes, that's true.
My mother-in-law makes absolutely no sound when she moves.
Stealth mother-in-law.
Honestly?
Is she sprayed black?
She's a
She
ninja.
could be a brilliant spy, you know, looking at a thing or something, and then suddenly she goes, hello, oh, come from? Where did you come from?
That's terrible. It's like the famous story of the boy who was, having a play with himself in his bedroom and with his eyes closed.
By the way, I was not playing. Just separate those two things.
He closes his eyes in bliss, and when he opens them afterwards, he just finds a cup of tea next to him.
Well, your father always likes a cup of tea after.
A copyright Les Dawson was walking down the street with my wife. I saw my mother-in-law. She was being beaten up by 6 men. And my wife said, aren't you going to help? I said, 6 should be enough. Sort of a
My
genius.
favourite one
He was a complete genius.
The mother-in-law came around.
Yeah.
The mice were throwing themselves on the traps.
We haven't even begun to answer this question yet. It's about sexual taboos with mothers-in-law, which you kind of...
Sexual taboos with
taboos. And there's particular languages
So
where
do
you have a
you not-
special language in which to speak to your mother-in-law. It's called an avoidance language.
Oh, it's called small talk.
But that's...
Just safe subjects.
Yeah, you also have to avert the eyes and look at the ground, which is part of using that language. And there are certain words that don't exist in that language. It's in Australia. There's some Aboriginal peoples who have these avoidance languages.
Is there a phrase for you've spilt the Tippex?
You're so bad. Now, what did this bird bring to the German city of Klutz?
Chlamydia.
Chlamydia.
That sounds like a desperate man back from a business trip in Holland going, the thing is stalks.
How big is it really, then?
Well, it's hard
a
to
real-
say the scale, but stalks are quite big, but that's an arrow through it, or spear, rather. What they recognised was that the arrow was not German. Indeed, it was not even European. But they recognised straight away
flown a very
that it
long
was
way.
African.
Oh.
So they puzzled out the possibility that
That it
birds,
migrated.
rather than disappearing at winter,
Oh, went to Africa.
yes, and
Sorry,
migrated.
you're saying it flew back with that?
Yes. It survived.
No
I know,
way.
yeah.
I mean, no
it
way.
Yes, it did.
It flew to Germany going, well, I'm never going back there.
With a spear all the way through its neck.
I know it is astounding that it flew.
During the
Something's different.
Yeah.
In the Spanish Inquisition, they used to put people on spikes. They put the spike up your bum and it would come out your shoulder and it would miss all the vital organs and you'd be alive.
Beginning
Come
really
right
to
up
think
there.
less and less of the Spanish Inquisition, as we understand.
350 years it went on. I thought it was, you know,
Oh, no.
a couple of
Couple of
weeks.
weeks.
A really bad long weekend.
Terrible things.
They did it, but not for 300 years solid.
When it wasn't torturous, what would they do?
Well, they would test your faith, but they wouldn't punish you by...
There was a lot of tickling. So it was 100 years where it was mainly Chinese burns. You do believe in God? Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Until that time, people had observed birds disappearing, and they'd assumed all kinds of things. Samuel Johnson wrote that swallows certainly sleep in the winter. A number of them conglobulate together by flying round and round, and then all in a heap throw themselves underwater and lie on the bed of the river. And butterflies, of course, they migrate thousands of miles, but we never see them. Why don't we see butterflies migrate?
They're invisible.
They're very...
Because they're caterpillars. They migrate as caterpillars. They're very, very hungry. I read a book about it.
They're actually a kilometre up. They're incredibly high.
Well, I
Genuinely
remember
incredible.
being on the school bus once. There was a beautiful butterfly on it, sort of fluttering around trying to get out, and I caught it in my hands. I went, "Go free," and I let it out the window, and a bird swooped in and left it.
I'd like you to add these numbers up. Look at the screen, add up the numbers.
Hang on, pen.
Oh, dear God.
Oh.
999.
431.
No, way
I'll
more
let
than
you
that.
have, which the winner of this competition did not have, the opportunity to see it again. All right, go, 2-second burst. Add that up.
I was about 897.
No.
No.
I mean, it'd be astonishing if you got it, but in Japan, where else, they have...
2,217.
And actually, the world record holder had a shorter time than that, and he did it in 1.7 seconds.
What?
Now, there's a particular reason Japanese people are very good at this.
I think I know the reason. It's
Yes.
in Malcolm Gladwell's book. There is a strange thing in Chinese and Japanese, in both languages, with the number, if you say the numbers together, it automatically adds them up, sort of linguistically.
Yes, but there's a really interesting addition to that. They do this. What do you think that is?
It's the abacus.
That is a living one of those. Oh, it's a herd of those.
And the answer, incidentally, was 1,966. But the secret actually is in the Chinese-Japanese abacus. Are they actually doing the action of the abacus? At the same time, they can have a conversation with someone. Because it's another part of the brain that's being engaged. And they'll say the answer, but they won't remember a single one of the numbers they added up. And I thought about this, and I thought, this is just crazy. But I've got a composer friend who came round to my house, and I happened to have a full orchestral score of Don Giovanni on the piano. And he, yes, don't...
Of course
stop.
you
Well,
did.
I did. People do. And I suddenly took apart what he was doing. It's not written out as a piano score. It's written out as violins, oboes, flutes, cor anglais, which you have to transpose. So he's doing that and playing a beautiful transcription of an orchestra and talking to me.
Well, the people that do that, they're slightly magic.
Yeah,
And that's, just, and that's a spell they're saying.
Yeah.
I go, yep, fine,
I
I'll
believe
buy
that.
Might as well be.
I've done 10,000 hours
Of this.
sitting around vacantly
And you're really getting good at it now.
being wrong about
The scores are unusual because we have, of course, been giving scores to make up for our errors.
Oh, we're factoring that in, really? That's awesome.
In last place, I'm afraid. It's magnificent for a first appearance. -19, Graham Linehan.
Man, worst episode ever to come on for your first time.
With 23.24, it's the audience. Well done. And in third place
Going
with...
behind the audience.
Yes, I'm afraid so. It's deeply unfair.
I'm on the show.
I'm so sorry. With plus 33.58 is Jimmy Carr. With plus 85.73, Joe Brand. With 689.66 is Alan Davies.
Best score ever, I'm going to say.
Be useful and lovely to yourselves. Good night.
That was really cool, actually, because I love the way this episode started off. Let's talk about the decay of facts, the half-life of facts. The fact that, I don't know if that, what was it, 7% that they said? I don't know if that's a universal number or not, but that's what they figure it is for the show. And every year, 7% of what remains true is proven wrong. That's kind of crazy. That feels... I'm not saying it's incorrect. It's just kind of eye-opening and makes you realize how quickly science progresses and evolves. It also goes to show how those people who... It gives the ammo to the people that are anti-science, unfortunately, because they don't understand that science is the method, not the end result. Nevertheless, that means something like 60% of Series A, when this was done 9 or K is 11, T is 9 years ago. 60% of Series A was incorrect, had become incorrect. And we're looking at a similar time jump between this Series K and what we're looking at now. So does that mean half of what we just learned is wrong? Is half of every episode of QI wrong? That percentage seems a little high. But it wouldn't surprise me at all to learn like a quarter of what we knew a decade ago is no longer accurate. But whatever the numbers are, the underlying idea is much more important. Nevertheless, I'm leaving it up to all of you experts out there watching me to tell me which facts from this episode are in fact wrong, perhaps including that percentage that they quoted. This is going to get very meta very quickly. I like that they went back and figured out how many points they owed the returning guests and the audience. Bad episode for Graham Linehan to show up on. He wasn't a major part of the show. I didn't find him particularly funny. He had a couple of little anecdotes, but he didn't feel like he was able to contribute much in the way of interesting. But he wasn't, nor was he offensive, which I was oddly afraid of. Nevertheless, Jimmy Carr, man, the man knows how to tell a joke, and the man has a memory for jokes. That's what I find really, really impressive. Like, I have heard a ton of jokes in my life, but how many of them can I repeat at the tip of a hat? Not many at all. The only one that comes to mind right now is one of Mitch Hedberg's. Rice is great if you want 2,000 of something to eat. And look, even then I screw it up. I'm not a comedian. I'm barely a talker. I feel like by giving Alan this massive buffer of points at the beginning of the episode, he kind of had the leash off. He was free to jump in and answer stuff. Who cares if he loses 10 points when you've got 700 of them? He was having a blast. He was all over the place. I loved his response to "What's this?" It's a live one of these. That's freaking brilliant. Or a herd of these. Like, Alan Davis is. I you know what? I still haven't seen him like do a stand-up act a bit. I'd be very curious. Because of the way he's perceived on this show, I think his skills are underestimated by many. But I really appreciate him. And it's moments like that I really, really appreciate him. I might have to hunt out some of his individual routines. Let me know if there's any in particular that I should hunt for. Yeah, thank you guys so much for recommending that one to me. That one was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that. And until next week, everybody, take care, stay healthy. We'll see you soon. Cheers.